that I don't forget? Perfect. Good. So everybody should be able to fill in the review, the survey. If not, we will have to see, but I think it should work. So Judith, I will give you the word, and I will also mute myself.
Okay, so welcome everyone again. Sorry. Good. Okay. Yes, I'm very glad that I can make this introduction today about the topic that we are going to talk about. The main topic of this event, this 24-hour event, is what do adults with disability tell us about their childhood, something that we think is very important. And hearing adult people talking about their childhood always gives us some ideas to think about and how we should actually treat treat the children that we have in therapy or wherever we meet them. So today we are going to talk about participatory research. You will learn what we understand until now, where we are, and also, or hopefully also, where we need to go. And maybe we can introduce ourselves a little bit, Petra. Do you want to start?
Yes, I just said at the beginning, so some of you heard it already, that Judith and me, we both work as pediatric physiotherapists. I'm here in the Swiss Children Rehab Center in Affoltern am Albis, so that's actually in the office, but I had also children for therapy today that were coming to me. And I also work in research and doing there my PhD at the Queen Margaret University on the topic of somatosensory function. So that's about me.
Yes, and I'm also a pediatric physiotherapist. I work in a practice together with 4 colleagues. And I also work in research as a postdoctoral researcher, also at the Swiss Children's Rehab. And yeah, that's where Petra and me, we spend some time together sometimes when we work on the same days. Yeah, and participatory research is one of my favorite topics at the moment, I have to say, because we noticed that we could prevent ourselves from doing a lot of things that we don't actually need to do if we would ask children and parents before we do something in research. And that's what I learned during the last years, and that's why I also think it is very important to include parents and children in our research. But I will start a bit earlier, because you're not all researchers, or I don't know, some of you are, but others are not. So when we look at, like normal research, it's usually the case that some researchers, they talk with each other and they read a lot, and then they think, it would be very nice if we could evaluate this and that. We have these questions and we would like to have them answered. They plan and organize a research project, and in the end they publish it. Hopefully knowledge is being transferred to the people who are actually looking, who actually need this kind of knowledge that was gained with research. But that's it. So during the last years, probably, there has been a trend, including normal people or non-researchers in research. Here in this example, you can see all the blue people that are children with disabilities and their parents who actually participate in research, not as participants, but as co-researchers. And this is called participatory research. So it doesn't really necessarily mean that we evaluate participation of some people, but we the research teams are mixed with non-researchers and researchers doing research together. So that's the definition of participatory research. Why should you do that? What is the need or the benefit of participatory research? It's basically that the knowledge production that's coming from research is based on real-world experience and with real-world action. And it's conducted in a democratic and collaborative manner. So people living their normal lives bring in some real-world context into the research and also real-world knowledge. This definitely improves the quality and also the relevance of research, because if these people tell us and talk to us and work with us on research, it's much more important for their lives as it would be if researchers would just think about something and do their research. So this makes research relevant and also translational. And what is a very important thing that I would like to emphasize here is that decisions are made together. So if the decision making is shared between researchers and co-researchers, this leads to an empowerment of the co-researchers. And the most important thing about that is that we have a UN Convention on the Rights of Children and also on the rights of people with disabilities, saying that basically nothing about us without us is something very important. We cannot just do research about people. We need to do research together with them. So at the Swiss Children's Rehab, we decided that we'll have some kind of a project about that. And we think that involving parents and children in the Swiss Children's Rehab in research for even more relevant research is a very good thing to do. What is very important to notice also is that participatory research is not just one thing. It's much more like a continuum. So you can start with information, having people informed about what you are doing during your research, what you are planning to do, what results you have at the end of a study, for example. The second level is consultation. So you can ask people about what they think when you present them, for example, what kind of research you are planning to do, and you can consult them about certain questions. The next step is involvement. So here you involve people or groups of people, groups of interest, and ask them about things like, what do you think is important that we should do in research, or how do you think should we translate this knowledge to the people that need to have this knowledge for their daily life? When you look at collaboration, this is even much more. So there you include people during a whole research process, from the beginning, the discussions about the research questions, until the translation of the knowledge in the end, or the publication. And when you look at shared leadership, which is basically the last or the highest level of participatory research, there people are included in every step and also in the decision making. So you really work as a researcher, co-researcher team with the same rights and the rights to make decisions. So it's very important that you see that it's a continuum. So you can ask people, but you can also very much include them, and it definitely depends on the project or the questions that you want to have answered, on which level you actually work with people. So when we look at participatory research all over the world with children and with families, you can see that there have been quite some studies during the last years. However, when we look at Switzerland, this is not so much the case. So that was a good thing for us, because we wanted to do something like that in Switzerland. And we, as researchers at the Swiss Children's Rehab, we were quite sure that participatory research is a good thing and that we could definitely profit from that. However, we did not know what children or parents thought about that. So we made a project with the name From Research on the Child to Research with Families, and we started with a needs assessment. So we performed 4 focus groups, 2 with adolescents with neuromotor disorders and 2 focus groups with parents of these of adolescents and children with neuromotor disorders. And we talked to them about the study process. So we explained that the study process is the first step is preparation. So you think about what you want to find out, you think about how you would like to find it out, and you plan everything. The second step then is the execution of a study. So when you really do the measurements or the interviews or whatever you are planning to do. And the third step then is the publication of the study or the knowledge transfer. So how do you get the knowledge you found and the results of your study to the people and the society. Based on this definition of research, we asked in these focus groups, would you be interested in being a part in such a research team as a co-researcher? Would you be willing to contribute? So in which area or which phase? Can you imagine to do something in a preparation phase when it's about discussions or finding money for research or something like that? Or would you rather be interested in contributing, for example, to translate the knowledge to other people and to society? And of course, under which conditions? So we made focus groups that we recorded, and we transcribed the interviews and coded them. And we found several main themes that we are further analyzing at the moment. So we found attitude towards participatory research, which was in general very good. So people think it's a really important thing to do. And also the attitude towards individual participation was basically positive. So the adolescents and the parents could actually imagine to be a part in research. Not in every step, of course, but especially, for example, in the discussion about research questions, and also in the knowledge transfer, they can imagine to play an important role as co-researchers. We found the theme conditions and prerequisites because we also asked them about that. So what would under which conditions they could imagine to be a part and to contribute. We talked about added value and benefit. So what could be, a good thing when they are working as co-researchers with us. And we also talked about difficulties and dangers or risks. One adolescent, for example, said it would be a pity if this participation would be some kind of pseudo participation. So having adolescents next to the researchers and saying, we had them in the team, but basically they did not add anything to the work at all. So that would be, kind of sad, and also a risk for research, but also for the adolescents. And then we also talked about compensation, which is a topic that was also very interesting, because the parents basically said, no, we don't need money for that. And the children said, of course, we would like to get some money because we are spending our time with you and we give our knowledge. So we definitely need to earn something for that. Yes, so these were the themes that we found. And what was really, really striking through all the, basically all the focus groups was that one condition for everyone was that there needs to be an added value. So something additional needs to come up when you have co-researchers in the team. It needs to be meaningfulness. So there needs to be meaningfulness. So they don't want just to sit in front of the computer and type some data or do something that everyone else could do as well. So they actually want to share their experience and what they know about their situation and their lives to make research more relevant. And there also needs to be a benefit anyhow. So benefit for research, but also benefit for the people who get the knowledge in the end. So these were very important topics when we talked about the conditions and the prerequisites of co-researching in a participatory research approach. Yes, so with that, I would like to give the word to Petra, and she will talk to you about experiences of two adult men she has been talking to during the last weeks.
Yes, thank you, Judith. I think it gives a good overview and a good picture what could be done in research. So not only doing research on people who have certain disability, rather doing it really with them together. And therefore, our idea was that we could talk with two adults who live with a disability And we asked them what they would like to share with you as a group, and I'm allowed to share this information with you. So the first person is Peter. He's on the picture together with me. He's 42 years old and he lives in Lucerne, in the middle of the city. He has a very active life, so he likes doing sport like karate and also archery. And he likes to meet people more in summer. Then it's easier in summer because in winter sometimes he cannot get into the rooms or locals with the electric wheelchair. Peter lives with other adults, and he is supported by assistants. So like a way of Wege, Judith, like adult. You're mute.
So like living in a community with other adults.
Yes.
I would say, yeah.
Yes. And actually, Peter is my cousin, and he's here. So if you want, you can say hello to everybody.
Hello.
Perfect. Thank you, Peter. And the second person is Eric. So they know each other. They went to the same school. It's a school for children with disability. And in contrast to Peter, Eric, he lives self-dependent, so he has assistants, and he says for him in his leisure time, he likes a lot to painting, and his family is very important for him, as otherwise it would not be possible to live independent with assistance. They work both at the same place, Peter and Eric. And yes, Eric, he mentioned also that he goes 2 times a week for physiotherapy. So he mentioned this as you know, that I'm a physiotherapist, and it's very important for him. So he said, in additional, it's very important that the therapists know him and his body, and the better they know him and his body, the better they can help him. So we'll go further to the next slide. So we did ask Peter and Eric if they had some experience with research during their life so far. So Peter said he did never participate in a research project so far, but he helped me for book chapters, and he also gave hints for transfer, and he likes also to share his knowledge to others, especially to children and family. I also asked if he could imagine to participate in a research project, and he said yes, but he knows not enough about research, so we will see this later on. And Eric, he did also never participate in a research project so far. He helped for final works of professionals who worked in the school, and he gave also interviews. And for sure, he also said he would help if the topic would be interesting for him too.
And here maybe I can add, Petra allowed me to tell something. I have an idea. So that's also why we put the dots there, conditions and prerequisites. That's something that we also found in our study, that people said, yes, I would really like to help and to be of support, but it really needs something that I can talk about, that is of interest for me. And I think that's an important thing. It's not just, adding people in the team just because so we have people, but asking them, and they also need to have a benefit of their work. So that's an important thing.
Perfekt. Und Peter, wenn du etwas willst dazu sagen oder ergänzen, dann darfst du auch auf Deutsch, gell?
Yeah.
Yes, if Peter wants to say something or add, he can do this in German, in Swiss German, and I will translate it. Perfect. So then we go to the next slide. Yeah, we did also talk a bit about ideas that could be researched, and Peter mentioned for him it would be very important that people gain more self-awareness, what it's what it feels like, or where the barriers are if you were a person moving in a wheelchair. So, for example, traveling around town in a wheelchair, and not just in buildings that are already prepared for people living in a wheelchair. So really in the environment that he uses. So that would be a topic of interest for Peter. And Eric, for him, as already mentioned, the self-determined life with assistance is very important for him. So he thinks that would be a topic that could be more in focus in research. That's their ideas. Yes, good. And maybe again, I have to add, again, it was also a bit that point that both Peter and Eric mentioned that they know not enough about the whole process on research. And that's also a bit in their note that is important for us to listen and take with us. So both are very happy to share their experience. So also to share their knowledge, and they also have, they also would take their time for this. And about the participation, Peter said that's difficult for him because he has not enough knowledge about the whole process. So what Judith was explaining before, I think for many of the people, where we do research about, they do not know enough about this process. So it needs this prerequisition and this knowledge. So maybe Judith, if you want to add something, I think that's a very important point.
Yes, it also came up quite many times during the focus group interviews that we did, that people said, you know, I don't know how these things work, and I don't know how you do research, and you are a researcher, and you're basically the expert. However, when we talk about discussing research questions, I guess we are not the experts at all, because we don't know what's really important in their lives, and we need to have them there to know that, and to gain information of their experience. And I think that's something that we cannot forget. Maybe we are the technical experts when it comes to research. We know how it's to be done, but we cannot do that ourselves. So that's why I think, we need to do that together. Yeah.
And additional, I could also imagine that, you, Peter, and also Eric, he cannot be today with us, but also for him, you did not participate in research. So that's maybe today already more children and families are involved in research projects. So then it's maybe also a bit easier to see what can be done.
Yeah.
Also, I just say shortly that Peter can follow it as well. So Peter, du und der Erich, ihr habt wie noch gar nie oder so an einem Forschungsprojekt teilgenommen. Und dann ist es natürlich schwieriger, sich vorzustellen, was man denn da macht, oder?
Ja.
Dass man nicht im Labor steht mit dem weißen Kittel und irgendwelche chemischen Sachen zusammenmischen.
Ja.
Aber eben, was ganz wichtig ist, dass ihr eigentlich die Experten sind, oder? Wenn es um euch Leben geht, und wir ja eigentlich, also Wissenschaftler und Physios, wir wissen ja nur unseren Teil. Und ich finde, wenn wir das zusammen machen, wäre das sehr, sehr, sehr sinnvoll. Jeder bringt so das, was er am besten kann.
Ja. Ja.
Yeah, Peter agrees. So I think more knowledge helps also to see what could be possible. And Eric, he also said he would share his experience and pass them on. And he also said what I found very also sad. He said we are often not asked, or we are not asked about what would be important to research on. And what he also added, what was very important for Eric, so he was always accepting his disability as it is, and he thinks there is nothing wrong with himself. And for him, it was just right not to go to a public school. So for him, that was perfect. And now it's very important for him to live self-dependent with assistance. Yeah, good. Yeah, that's from Eric from his website. You also have the link in the presentation, and he's doing a lot of wonderful paintings. And I really found this. When we discussed, he said for him it's like the most important is that we are living together and treating each other with heart. So being really empathic and open, and especially with children, also to let them be children, to take them into your arms. And he had a bit the feeling today's that's done a bit less. So that's sometimes the people want to be too professional, too distanced, and especially with children, it should not be this way. So it should be therapy, treatment, and just relationship with heart and with empathy. Then we go, as the whole topic is related to childhood, we went to the next point, and we did ask if there are topics related to childhood. And I start with Eric, as I already mentioned it, for him, this treatment with heart and really allowing also this relationship between maybe teachers, professional therapists with the children, that's a very important point. And he also mentioned equality and better integration that should be followed, and there should be more opportunities also as an adult. And Peter also said that, that things today are better than in previous years. Some requirements were not there for children, so there is a lot of progress. And today, a child, for instance, can choose if the child wants to go integrated in school, so in a public school, or in a special school, as he has followed. And he also mentioned that we have the UN conventions and the right and the rights of persons with disability, and that's very important. So it's very important that everyone is knowing this. And Judith, you have also added this point that's, I think, for all of us, very important. And maybe you can go fast one time back, sorry. Peter, you also mentioned that also about school, that one teacher maybe would say to give you the chance to do the public school. And there it's also very important to have a village or a place where you feel safe. So you would go to a school where you will feel safe. That's very important. So I just translate shortly. Also Peter, du hast mir wie gesagt, oder, dass so ein Lehrer hat dich vielleicht genommen in der Schule und dass für dich halt wichtig ist, dass du dich dort einfach wohlfühlst, wo du in die Schule gehst, oder die Leute kennst.
Ja.
Yeah. Yeah, and an additional point, what Eric said, is that people today, and I think that's also important for all of us, he has the experience that people today are often very stressed and just a bit like too professional, on a true professional way. So they are stressed and they do not have time just to listen or to, just to be with somebody. And that's, I think, very important, especially for him with a disability, as it needs also a bit more time to discuss and listen to each other. Yeah. Good. Then the next slide. So these are some personal pictures from Peter and me as we spend our childhood, sometimes in our childhood together. And I just thought, I mean, I'm here more or less as a professional, but I'm also a cousin of Peter. And my experience, if I remember our childhood and our time as we were adolescents, is that it was never something special for me, that Peter, you could not walk like me, so you had other possibilities. Also, it was just for me like normal to spend time with each other. And I think it's very important to share this experience, as this opens also a new perspective. And yeah, it was also important to have, to find place and things to do in leisure time that we can do together. I remember once we even went climbing in a climbing hall, and yeah, just to try out if it's possible or not. Also to be a bit, to take a bit the risk, but it was never something, that you have to be restricted. So that's very important. And I remember also, if I would go back as a child, and maybe that also brought me where I'm today. So I always wanted also to know already then as a child why things have been difficult for you. So to find solution, what can it make easier to move around, to even to walk with a little bit of help. So that was always important for me too. Yeah, so I just shortly translate the summary for Peter. Also Peter, ich habe gesagt, wenn ich zurückdenke, dass es für mich immer wie ganz normal war, dass du dich halt anders bewegt hast als ich.
Ja.
Und dass vielleicht das mich ja auch dorthin gebracht hat, wo ich jetzt bin. Und genau, dass mir aber auch schon wichtig war, halt zu überlegen, warum Sachen für dich schwierig sind. Und ich dann auch überlegt habe, wie könnte man vielleicht dir helfen, dich unterstützen. So, das ist auch immer so ein wichtiger Punkt sein. Also, dass du halt möglichst selbstständig auch kannst sein.
Mhm.
Immer, gell? Aha. He said always. Yeah, perfect. So we go further. Yeah, we have time for discussion and questions, and the people who did not fill the survey can still fill. So we saw there were coming in some more. So if somebody has a question or want to know something from Judith, Peter, or me, you can just unmute. And or if you have other ideas or feedback, that helps us to bringing this participatory research further on. So we just wait a bit. And if there is coming nothing, I maybe just can add or maybe also ask again Peter. So I think, there maybe, Elisabeth, yes? You can.
Petra, dann müssen immer die Patienten, also die Kinder oder die Jugendlichen, Erwachsenen dabei sein, oder würde es erreichen, wenn es nur die Eltern sind? Das, was die Maria gemacht hat, ist das auch so eine Participatory Research? Das sind aber nur die Eltern dabei und nicht die Kinder, weil die Kinder ja auch so klein sind. Würde das auch darunter fallen oder ist das nicht?
Maybe Judith can just shortly.
Sorry,
it's okay.
I talk it in English. So
no, it's okay.
If only the parents are asked in the research, do you also call it participatory research, or is it different because they are not the person themselves?
No, it
included?
doesn't. No, it doesn't matter. I mean, what matters is the questions that you have or the reason why you include someone in research. So if you want to have the parents and to know about their experience, for example, or you want to include them because they know how the lives of their children are and what they think is relevant and important, for example, of course you can add parents. I mean, participatory research is not only in our field, but in all research. And there are several projects, for example, also in Switzerland, where just normal citizens, it's called citizen science, where you include citizens in biological studies, for example. They go and gather, how do you say that, from the soil, and they send it in and stuff like that. So participatory research can be nearly everything. Yeah, and you can include whoever whoever so that it makes sense for research. And I mean, the the optimal thing would be that you include, well, it's always like I include people, but that people go together in a mixed team and they start from scratch doing research, thinking about what would be necessary, and not only researchers, but parents or children or whoever is included. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
that would be the optimal thing, having people in a mixed team from the beginning to the end.
Okay.
But this is of course not always possible, and it's also very difficult to implement that, because we as researchers, for example, we are, you know, like working for an institution or something like that, and parents or children not. So there's already a difference between the people, because we earn money for that and they don't. And things like that you need to think about, and also from an ethical point of view. But yeah, basically you can include, everyone can be included. Yeah.
But can you tell something about this, that this kind of, is it also, does it belong to qualitative studies or research? Does this belong to qualitative research, this participatory, or is it a separate kind of research? And then how is it accepted in research world? That would be also interesting for me.
Yeah, so I would not say it's either qualitative or quantitative research, because it's something completely different.
Okay.
You can do a participatory approach in quantitative research as well as in qualitative research. So it really doesn't matter. It's like independent on the methodology that you choose. Of course, when you include parents or children in focus groups, it's not necessarily participatory if you just ask them about their experience, right? Participatory means much more. You include them in your study as co-researchers and not just as participants telling you something.
Okay.
I guess it's also a bit like an approach, like a philosophical way, how you look at it, maybe.
Yeah, it's also a bit like changing perspective.
Exactly.
So really
yes.
changing the perspective and take a new look, a new kind of, how could we proceed, another methodological approach. And maybe if I can add this point, as Peter and Erich, they mentioned, they would have some resources to participate, even as a co-worker, as sometimes in their working place where they had something to do, but not enough. So often they do not know what to do after the lunch break, as they have done all their work. So it's also a lot of people would be out there with a lot of resources, and we just not include them. So that's also a pity. I think we could really include their capabilities and their possibilities much more in society. So it's even not just about research, but it's also a few how you live together. And I maybe just shortly want to repeat for Peter. Peter, ich habe gesagt, gell, manchmal sagst du, ihr habt wie nicht so viel zu tun im Contenti, oder? Es ist dir langweilig.
Ja, manchmal schon.
Und dann würdest du gerne irgendetwas Sinnvolles machen.
Ja,
Yeah, he would like to do something that really has an impact. So that, for the society, or especially for families and younger kids with disability.
And maybe also to add something for your last question, how it is seen in the research world. There are actually countries, I don't know, maybe Jenny is here from the UK. I heard from the UK, sometimes it's even, like you need to have some kind of participatory approach, or to include stakeholders for your research, so you get the money and the funding for research. So it's actually a trend that's going very, very deep.
Yeah, absolutely. I think now if you put in a grant proposal that doesn't have isn't participatory, you probably won't get funded.
I think also in research there is a shift going due to really participatory research, not just, so sometimes we may do also a bit like we include a bit, but not as much as we could. So we have to be also a bit honest with ourselves as a researcher in this phase. Yeah, Jenny did
Things-
also ask. Sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think it's one of those things when you look back on it, you think, oh, how would we have presumed to have done that in a different way? Now it seems, you know, clearly the right thing to include those with lived experience. And you think, a bit strange we haven't always done that when you look back.
For me, definitely, yes. Yeah. And it was also when I finished my PhD, I had some very, very difficult questions. And I thought I should have asked people before I started that. I would have answered to these questions. And that was, yeah, probably also for me, the motivation to go on with participatory research and to include people more and just ask them about things and have them in the same boat. And maybe I can also add here that for this needs assessment that we did with these focus groups, we included also, not from the very beginning, but quite early on, we included a mother of a boy with cerebral palsy and also a young woman with cerebral palsy herself. And they helped us to form these focus groups, and they also established the interview guide together with us. And that was a great experience, because especially this young woman, she said, no, you cannot ask young people. You know, you cannot do it like that. You need to use different words, and they will laugh at you if you ask them these kinds of things. And that was really, really helpful. But it's not easy. I think it's very difficult to be on the same level, you know, really on the same level, because as I said, we work for that. That's our job, and they are doing that in their free time. And that's already a large gap. But yeah,
it needs
Yeah.
maybe also more possibilities to
Yeah.
clarify these different rules. And
Exactly.
it could be really, I think, if you ask why it was not done in previous years, it's really a pity. I think it has to do a lot with our way of thinking, that on one way there are professionals and they know maybe it better how to do, and on the other ways there are, like I would say it a bit black and white, the poor disabled persons. So it's a bit coming from this way of thinking, and it's I mean, it's a great time that we go away from this, and we really use this chance and also challenge, as Judith said, to give more opportunities to everybody, to every person, so that they can do valuable work. And I think that brings much more knowledge and much valuable knowledge that we can use in future. But it's still a way to go.
It's the way to go. And I also think that there's, you know, a worldwide trend going in this direction, and that definitely helps. And trends need to start at some point, and then people are jumping on the train, and it's becoming much easier the more we do. Yeah.
I just shortly also say to Peter, so Jenny Jenny von England, sie hat gesagt, warum, dass man denn das früher nicht schon gemacht hat, weißt, die Leute mehr eingebunden, dass Leute mit Einschränkungen auch haben können mitschaffen in so Gruppen und so gefragt worden sind, ja, warum hat man das nicht gemacht?
Ja.
Und ich habe das Gefühl, es ist halt, weil man einfach gedacht hat, ja, das sind die Leute, die das professionell machen, und das sind die Leute, die müssen betreut werden. So, oder? Yeah. I saw that Linda wanted to ask a question, so you're free to unmute. You should.
Yes,
thank
you. Thank you. I try to do it in English.
Yeah, as you like.
And I noticed that it sounds to me more like inclusive research, which is a trend anyway. Inclusive education, inclusive medicine, and inclusion is, I think, like the head word. And it sounds to me like finally it gets closer that research and real life is not such, there is not such a big gap in between. And I think it's a very good and positive trend. I did a master's study in special needs education some years ago, and for me it sounds like, well, this is what we did in social research, Sozialforschung, and I think it's a good idea, like Judith said in the beginning, just to ask what people with special needs have, what they have as a need to be answered, what questions they have, and what needs to be answered by our society.
Thank you, Linda. Yeah, I think that's a good thing that you mentioned here also, that participatory research is basically bridging the gap between research and daily life, or research and therapy. That's also a statement that came out of our research, that parents said that they think that would be the biggest benefit. So coming closer together, everyone. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Maybe there is another feedback, or somebody else want to share something? Hast du noch etwas sagen, Peter, zu allen Leuten? Nein, ist gut. Ist gut. So maybe if some of you did not made the survey, so there are almost all, but if it's still open, you can still do the survey. And if there is, Jenny wrote that we have made the same journey with clinical work. I think that's also important. Also there changed a lot in the last year. So yeah, it's a parallel. It's also, as Linda said, it's not only now in research, it's in clinical work, therapy, but it's the whole society. I think that's a good point.
Yes, so if there are no questions anymore, I would like to come back to the sentence that Erich said. It's very necessary that we treat with heart, and what Petra and me thought about yesterday is we should definitely also do research with heart. So yeah, the heart follows us through this session. And with that, we would like to thank you for listening, for being here, for sharing, for your interest and your time. And if you have further questions, you can also contact us.
Yeah, I think that's good.
We
thank you, and we think it's very nice that people are interested. And if you think it's worth to see the session later on, you can also tell the people that it will be online available on the website. Also the other sessions from the other groups. But then I think it's Friday at almost 5 o'clock. So we wish to everybody a very nice weekend. Enjoy your time, and yeah, live with heart. And
exactly. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your participation.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you, Jenny.
Thank you. Bye.
Petra, bist du noch schnell da?
Ja, die Aufzeichnung stoppen.